We're here at the northern end of a coastal forest corridor that runs from Lang Lang south to Granville. Now, this forest, filled with wildlife, magnificent stands of grass trees, rare and endangered orchids, and mature eucalypts, messmate, manna gum and stringy barks, supports a disappearing riparian coastal forest ecosystem that once thrived across this whole region. In fact, in all of Western Port and Bass Coast, this is the last significant stand of coastal forest remaining.
I love bushwalking, and there are some beautiful places to go in the bush around Bass Coast, but unfortunately there are not many of them. So it's all right for me, I can jump in a car and drive to somewhere I know is beautiful, but the animals have to have a corridor to move around, and this is one of the most beautiful corridors, goes right the way up the side of the coast.
And this is the last one we have, so it's very precious. Used to be called the land of the lyrebird, and we had our Victorian emblems, the leadbeater's possum and the helmeted honeyeater were all discovered here, but sadly they no longer remain because so much of the forest has been cleared that we really need to protect what's left.
It sits on sand, and it's being mined for that sand. The forest being ripped out for concrete, for bridges, car parks and tunnels for Melbourne. We're not talking 1 or 2 mines here. North to south, the immense pits sit right across this whole corridor. Hundreds of truckloads of sand being removed every few hours.
What looks like happening is going to remove virtually all of this in the next 30 years. And I think that would be an incredible shame. Now, I'm rather annoyed that this local community isn't the one that's making a decision about what happens here. You don't actually see this from the highway. There's always a vegetated buffer to hide it.
Yeah, it's sneaky.
Sunset glowing over Western Port, the grass trees sigh.
So talking to the state government and the decision makers, I'd say I understand that we do need sand as part of construction, and we actually have plenty of sand. So I would say that we need to prioritise the protection of this forest and take our sand from the places that are already more degraded and not as precious.
We know that with all the permitted work sites already committed and operating, that there's resources to supply Melbourne for more than 500 years, and the supply is not under threat, but the bush is.
So here, right under our noses, we're witnessing regional extinctions. Look, it truly isn't rocket science. Rip out the habitat, rip out this forest, and the wildlife dies.
It's important to native animals, but beautiful places to walk and visit are important to humans too. Let's not destroy the last remaining areas of natural beauty in the name of progress, because it isn't. Bass Coast relies on tourism, yet we destroy what is lovely for the price of sand. Absolutely crazy.
So since moving down here, been to a couple of reconciliation events put on by the Bunurong people, who are the traditional owners of this part of Gippsland, and what they were saying just really made sense to me, particularly the parts about that we have to look after the land and then the land will look after us. So it just made so much more sense to me than what I was hearing about plans for just mindless growth. I guess I feel a moral responsibility to do everything I can to try to save this forest so that, by the time my child is old enough to bushwalk, that it's still here.
And this is the last woodland in Bass Coast Shire, the last.
We must stop it happening here. We must protect this forest. Will you help us?
Keep me here on a Granville shore. Feel the gentle breeze on this Granville shore. Colour lights glowing over Western Port, the grass trees sigh, hear the forest calling in this magic hour on a Granville shore, this magic hour on a Granville shore.